Morning, folks. This is John Chisholm, GPAC. Excited to be here this morning. I was just talking to Hiring Authority out there, and we've kind of had this topic. We've kind of had this topic back and forth. You know, Sean and I talking about different ways in which we need to be more creative about hiring people. And here's the thing. Here's the reality, and people that own contracting firms, in reality, any business, if you own a business, one of the things that is really, really important is learning how to be flexible, learning how to be kind of change with the times, kind of pivot a little bit, and kind of figure out ways that you can be the most effective. And in our industries, in our specialty contracting industries where we recruit across the country, one thing that we're finding right now is that, quite frankly, candidates are hard to find. Good, solid candidates with good motivation for leaving, for making a change are very, very hard to find. And so basic economics will tell you that you have a low supply and a high demand. As an example, in certain metropolitan areas, if I find a good drywall estimator with on-screen takeoff and quick bid that's got projects over $1 million, literally, when I put that person out to market, literally I get anywhere from 10 to 15 phone calls within the first hour, and I've got that person signed up on interviews immediately within a couple hours. And usually within the week, we've got them hired. I probably have never told the story here, but one time my world record, I don't know if this is a world record or not, is I had a candidate down to the south of Boston that I would not say he was an A+ candidate. He was probably a C+ candidate, but he had an A+ motivation. And the candidate didn't really have the direct skills in drywall. Had skills that were close enough to drywall, but really not directly in drywall. Had never done drywall, had never estimated drywall or anything like that, but had the right mentality and wanted to learn how to do drywall. So I did what I typically do. I marketed the client by sending a confidential email to my clients first, and then to the larger client base second. I did that within 20 minutes of talking to I had an email out within 20 minutes of talking to this candidate. And don't worry, this story is going somewhere. Within 10 minutes of sending out that email to my clients that I have contracts with, I got 2 responses that I talked to 2 of them on the phone and set up 2 interviews. One interview was for the following week, face-to-face interview, and one interview was immediately after I talked to the person. In other words, within 30 minutes, I had a phone interview lined up that was set up for half an hour later. Okay. So this all started at 10 in the morning. By 11, I had a phone interview lined up, or excuse me, at 10:30, I had a phone interview lined up for 11 o'clock. And as is my custom, I follow up after the interview, or the candidate calls me up after the interview. At 10:45, the candidate called me and said it was a fantastic interview. Everything's going well. And they said they're going to make me an offer. Now, this is off of a phone interview. I was a little bit suspicious, so of course I called up the company and said, "Hey, so how'd the interview go?" And we talked about it. And he said, "Listen, I'm in the process of writing up an offer for this guy." By 11:40, I had an offer in my email for this candidate, and by 11:45, we were talking about it, reviewing it. By 11:55, he told me he was going to accept it, and at noon, he formally signed the paperwork and started 2 weeks later. So this is a phenomenal story within 2 hours, interview, receive resume, pre-interview, bulk email, phone calls, interview, hire. I'm not suggesting that that's the kind of thing that we ought to be doing. In other words, I'm all about interview processes, making sure that the background's good and everything else. But the reality is that the reality is that in this economy, when you're urgently needing a candidate, and a candidate is brought to you by a recruiter that you're working with that you can trust, the process has to be shortened quite a bit. And by the way, I shorten the process quite a bit because I do reference checks. I do make sure that the candidate has the right skills, talents, and abilities through doing the reference checks. And by the way, as a recruiter, I can ask a lot of questions that you might not be able to ask, or you might not be able to have the time to ask. So my process is really been honed down over the years so that it shortens your process. So what I'm encouraging people to do is not only consider if the hiring situation is urgent and is important, you have to consider your interview process, shortening your interview process. If you have to have 3 interviews, if that's your tradition, that's great. But have 3 interviews in one day as opposed to having 3 interviews stretched out over 1 week. Because if you do that, if the candidate is good, some other company is going to snap them up, or her up, or they up. That's the other thing that we have to consider too, is the way that we present our culture. Not just present our culture, but build our culture. And I've got a great video that I'm going to be putting out to my clients, and I'm going to make it available to the general public if you're interested. It's how to build a high performance culture, and really what that's all about is that the biggest thing that one of the biggest things that a company can offer outside of being able to be promoted, growth, good compensation. I'm talking about compensation, including good benefits, a good 401k or ESOP program, work-life balance. All these things are things that a company, and it's all built into culture, the culture of the company. And a high-performance culture is such that nobody wants to leave, and in fact, they're the best advertisement for your company as far as bringing in new talent, and also as far as working with your clients. So another thing you need to consider working on really hard to be an attractive company for these candidates out there, a marketable company, is culture. Absolutely. Another thing to consider is, along with that culture, is when you have good people that are on board, making their life better in terms of work-life balance, in terms of maybe even a hybrid model. I mean, in construction, it's great to have people in the office. Don't get me wrong. It's great to have that camaraderie and everything else. But if you want to talk to somebody, about a hybrid position, it's me. I mean, that's what I have right now. I have a hybrid position where I prefer to work in the office because I prefer the camaraderie, the direct camaraderie. But when COVID hit, GPAC went 100% remote and was managed to keep enough culture by utilizing the tools that we have for culture. That is, we use Zoom, we use RingCentral, and other things like that to be able to continue to celebrate our victories, celebrate our placements, celebrate each other, give each other encouragement, be able to talk to each other via video, via phone. But also, be able to be interactive and communicative. I prefer being in the office. And now we have the privilege of being in the office right now, but probably about 75% of our company is still out there being remote. And guess what? In the last 2 years, GPAC has had, last year, 2020, we had our biggest year ever. This year, 2021, we've already surpassed what we did in 2020. And it is because we have a culture of support that works well within an office setting, but also works well within a a remote setting. We call it the laptop lifestyle. Now, I just want to ask an honest question. If you have an employee that you can trust, that does good work, that's an excellent estimator, if you have that excellent estimator out there that's proven themselves, that they do great estimates, that they work hard, that they have integrity around their work, why wouldn't you send them home? Why? I mean, in San Francisco, California, why wouldn't you have them work 2 to 3 days a week at home doing estimates? Why wouldn't you? You would save them time. I mean, the average commute around the San Francisco Bay Area is anywhere from 1 hour to 3 hours, one way. Los Angeles, Boston, Washington, D.C. is the same way. Why wouldn't you take an estimator, train them, get their trust, have their trust? Why wouldn't you, once they gain that trust, understand your company's, integrity, morals, vision? Why wouldn't you, as a carrot, why wouldn't you offer a hybrid option? Or you say, oh, well, it's going to screw up the office dynamic and everything like that. Well, there's ways of making the office dynamic continue. And let me tell you something. If the person's not in the vehicle for 3 hours a day, they can do a whole hell of a lot more estimating, if that makes sense. So consider, I'm inviting people to consider, as I'm talking to these hiring authorities in the drywall industry, the painting industry, when we're dealing with estimators, when we're dealing with project managers, when we're dealing with high-level people that are responsible and are motivated by, they're motivated because a lot of companies will pay bonuses, profitability bonuses, will pay bonuses based upon the volume of estimating that they do, based upon on the project management side, based upon the profitability of the project that they've managed. Why wouldn't you have a hybrid model? Why wouldn't you do that? It will make the people a lot happier. It will build a culture. Build a culture in a positive way. It will stick them to your company, because there's a lot of old school companies that would never consider that. And it'll put you in the forefront when you're hiring people, that you have that option, because that's something that many, many people are looking for post-COVID. So I invite you to consider that. That's just I invite you to consider, as a hiring authority, I invite you to consider ways in which your company can be set apart from other companies, that makes your company unique. Maybe it's even your policy towards paid time off, PTO, versus vacation. I work with companies out on the West Coast that have literally unlimited PTO. As long as your work is done, as long as your bids are done, as long as you are at or ahead of your goals for the year, as long as you're in a quote unquote good relationship with the company. If you need to go see a kid's ball game or dance recital or concert, or your mom, you want to go visit your mom for lunch, or you want to go hang out with your wife, you want to leave early on a Thursday afternoon to go to the beach with your wife, or go downhill skiing with your wife, or whatever it is, or your significant other, your spouse. There's that availability. I mean, if you've got your job done and you can get your job done, having that flexibility, that flexible paid time off, is always an awesome opportunity that kind of sets companies apart. I work with another company that if their unit, let's just take the estimating unit, if their estimating unit meets their goal, they buy lunch for the entire unit. If they surpass their goal, they have a next level goal that they're trying to get to, then they take the entire unit out for an afternoon, like a Top Golf, or they go skiing or snowboarding, or they just do an activity together and have lunch together outside of the office. And then there's a third level goal, where this company, what they do is that if you reach that third level goal as a team, then you get to individually in the next month, in the next 30-day period, take a full day off with pay, without affecting your PTO, without affecting your vacation time or anything else. You get a full day off with pay. And that's something you can also bank. So there's different creative things that you can do, golf tournaments, golf outings, going to football games together, going to hockey games together, going, athletic events together, doing things that build camaraderie outside of having to be in the damn office every single day. So it's an exciting time in the recruiting industry. It really is, because there's a low supply of candidates and a high supply of needs right now. And I'm encouraging companies, I'm encouraging you today. These are my reflections. These are my thoughts. Think of different ways. And this is what I do with my companies, my client companies. Think of different ways that you can attract, that your company can attract good employees that set you apart from other companies. Because you're going to need that little carrot, whatever it happens to be able to bring the best employees and get them on board in your company. So this is a short one today. Just wanted to throw that out there, because of the difficulty. Quite frankly, it's hard right now, and that's why it makes it that's why having a great recruiter and having a great recruiting team like GPAC with that reach that we have is so important. But what I'm encouraging you to do is to help us out. How do you help us out? Make your workplace so attractive that when we do find a great candidate for you, that they're going to want to come to work for you. That indeed that there's something better, that you're offering something better than what they have right now. Again, I'm going to be offering here in the coming week, I'm going to be offering my webinar free of charge to my clients. I already offered free of charge to my clients, but I'm going to expand that offer for a short amount of time. So be watching for it next Wednesday, 1 week's time. I'm going to make available the Building a High Performance Culture webinar that gives you tips and tricks to make your workplace so attractive that people will never want to leave and more people want to come to work for you. So if you're interested in it, hit me up in the chat box, and I will be more than happy to make that available to a wider audience, how to build that high performance culture. Anyway, you have a great day at work today. I encourage you, if you're a business owner and you're in need of employees, specifically in a specialty contracting arena, drywall, metal stud framing, painting, acoustical ceilings, EIFS, stucco, waterproofing, concrete restoration, HVAC, electrical, roofing, and civil. Give John Chisholm a call, 605-277-3729. We're the number one. Myself and Sean Bone, we're the number one specialty contracting recruiting team in the entire country. And we're looking to help you find that next best employee to fit perfectly in your business, one that'll knock the cover off the ball, 10 out of 10. Great proven background, but we need your help and we're excited to work with you. So give me a call if I can be of any assistance, 605-277-3729 or john.chisholm@gogpac.com. And I hope you have a blessed day, a fantastic rest of your week if we don't talk again.